From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. As is officially announced, the Broncos are going to play in London this season, October 30th against the Jacksonville Jaguars. It'll be a 7:30 a.m. kickoff here in Denver. And Ben, this is something that we've kind of known about for a little while. If you've been listening to Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show, we've known about it for a minute. The Broncos getting a chance to go back over to London. And, Russell Wilson has had success over there. Obviously, I think he's a winning record. And the Broncos in general have seemed to have success over there. So this sets up really nicely for them. And I think it's an opportunity here for the Broncos as a little bit of a new look franchise to show off internationally.
It gives the Broncos a chance to try out their London accents, which I will never do again for anyone ever. Yeah, I am. I have a terrible British accent there. I'm excited to make the trip. I'm excited for the international series. Of course, we've known about that here. We've talked about it a little bit on the radio show. Over the course of the last month and a half or so. But I think it'll be good. It's right around Halloween, October 30th. It gives these guys a chance to go overseas and help try to grow the game. It'll be against the Jaguars, and while they may not be as big of a pushover as when you got a Urban Meyer in there, you still figure like it's a winnable game going overseas. It is a road game, so it's not like you're losing a home game to go over there to do that. They're technically the road team in that game, so that's, I think, a plus. Again, gets the international thing out of the way for another 10 years or so. Would we have liked to see this team go to Mexico City? Maybe. Cool. But ultimately that's going to be Arizona and the San Francisco 49ers. So, and then of course the other international game is the Germany game, which is Tampa and I believe Seattle.
It is.
So there you go. I'm looking forward to this, man. I think it'll be a fun experience. I think it'll be a cool experience for these guys, some of which have probably never been overseas.
Jerry Jeudy admitted he'd never been there.
Never been there and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. And like I said, I get to try out my British accent a little more.
Yeah.
And you get to cringe it when I do.
And it's super cringe for everybody else involved. Mm-hmm. Well, and Russell Wilson was on Good Morning Football and talked about the team building and team bonding opportunity of making that flight to and from. Of course, you want to be traveling back after a win. That's a really big kind of moment here in the season. And the Broncos playing that around October 30th could be maybe a bit of a jump start for the remainder of the year if they get that win.
Usually, yeah, it could. And usually the schedule works out fairly favorably because in terms of how they work this out for the overseas game, generally you get like a Thursday game the week before. So you have a Thursday, then you get that off. So you wind up with like a 10 days off before you get to London. Then you get the bye week when you get back. So you get plenty of time to like acclimate both directions. I think that's going to be good. The rest of the Broncos schedule will be out to, May 12th, I think it is, although we kind of sort of know most of it already. Looks like the Broncos are going to get a good number of primetime games this year, so I think fans are going to be happy.
Speaking of Russell Wilson on Good Morning Football, a lot of good conversation back and forth. I liked a couple of things. First of all, he was asked about the team and about being around the Broncos facility, and he talked about how, hey, these guys show up ready to work. This team, the players on this team, I'd almost go as far to say he didn't say these specific words, but they're hungry for it. Mm-hmm. I think organizationally, this team has been looking for a rallying point for quite some time. Mm-hmm. They've hoped they'd find it in some of these other quarterbacks that they brought in here, whether it's draft picks or free agents, and they just haven't been able to find that rallying point. But much like Peyton Manning was a rallying point in 2012 for the Broncos, it sort of feels like organizationally Russell Wilson is the same thing.
Well, and you got something to bank on. I mean, there's a bankable person and player there. Russell Wilson has been good for quite some time. Now, obviously, last year with the injury, worst year of his career, but the year before that was one of the best years of his career. So it's not like he's aging like fine wine. He's getting better with age in most of the areas. And I think that's something that you can bank on. You've got a clear, convincing leader who is still able to play at a high level. This isn't trying to, bring in the ghost of Joe Flacco or roll the dice on Case Keenum after one hot year or, any of that kind of stuff. This is somebody who has been steady and reliable for a decade, and now you're bringing him into the Denver Broncos organization.
Yeah, and he had a chance to talk about the offensive players, which he's been scouting for quite some time, and now he's getting a chance to work with. But even talking about the defensive side of the ball, and listening to Josie Jewell in his press conference this week, I think about this from the defense and how getting ready for the season takes on a little bit of a different perspective, a little bit different meaning. and what you're able to do in practices with Russell Wilson, sort of sharpening the tools, if you will, on the defensive side of the ball. Going up against Patrick Mahomes and Derek Carr and Justin Herbert in your own division is a challenge. But the Broncos haven't really had, and that's no direct shot at anybody, they haven't had that kind of quarterback play here in a while. And so to have that kind of quarterback out there on the practice field can only mean good things for them too.
Well, right. And resetting the championship standard. The last couple of years, good enough has been good enough. We're going to see what we can do. Those kind of mantras have been there in the early going. This is not, we're going to see what we can do. This is, we're going to come in and win football games. I'm Russell Wilson. Here's the standard. You either meet it or I thank you kindly for trying and send you on your way. And I think that's a better way to go about it, as a better approach, holding people accountable and making sure everybody is up to the same task with the same vision and aligned in that, because you have had guys in the last couple of years who thought that good enough is good enough, and that's not going to be good enough for what is now here in Denver. And
there's a little bit of an organizational shift that's going to happen with that. But again, that's sort of the rallying point we were just talking about with Russell Wilson. What he represents is a, we're going to put together this kind of effort because we know we have that kind of guy in the building. I'm not saying that you intentionally didn't play as hard when you have other quarterbacks here. It's just human nature. When you see that opportunity to rise to a level of excellence, because you know the people around you are expecting that out of you, well, you do change a little bit. And I think that is something we're looking forward to seeing. Now, how long does that take? That's a good question. And can they get there as soon as the start of the season, or will there be bumps along the path? That's part of the conversation.
I think you do have to prepare for that. You've got an extremely young and inexperienced coaching staff and a brand new quarterback to these guys. And I do think you have to be prepared for the possibility that there will be early hiccups as this team kind of finds its feet. I think an ideal situation is maybe you lose a game or two. You probably shouldn't in the first 8 games, but as you start to grow and get it toward the midseason and hit your peak right there at the end of the season as you're entering the playoffs, that'd be the ideal scenario and setup here. So don't expect this Broncos team to be firing on all cylinders coming right out the gate.
Yep. Last thing here with Russell Wilson, as he talked about playing in a tough division, and I loved. Again, he's maintained this, said the same thing in his opening press conference, said this in front of Good Morning Football, wouldn't have it any other way. Said that this division, he's used to playing in tough divisions. The NFC West has been a very good division for a really long time. Maybe not always all 4 teams competing at the highest level, but at least 2 or 3 always are in the mix to be in the postseason. And Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks have been one of those teams. So I kind of come back to points we made on this show. I was listening to Chris Collinsworth on Pro Football Focus, and he said, listen, look at the teams that went the furthest in the postseason last year. They came from tough divisions. They were battle tested. Whereas you saw teams like Green Bay, you saw teams like the Tennessee Titans playing in divisions that didn't have as much competition. Guess what happened in those situations? They flopped. They couldn't. They were basically propped up on their success, beaten up on teams that weren't really in the same conversation as them. Meanwhile, teams like the Rams, teams like the Bengals, they had to play really tough schedules, and they were able to rise above it.
Yeah, look at the Titans last year got 6 games against the Colts, Jags, and Texans. It's going to prop up anybody's schedule. So
definitely. All right, Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.